can with a 19% energy availability factor. Realistically, we can only get those units in terms of their planning. The 4 of the 5 that are out by the 24th of January, of December, Christmas Eve, and then the other one will come, the remainder of the 5 will come on stream February of next year. So we're doing everything possible. Like I said, I mean, once we have visited all these power stations and are confident about the numbers that the station managers are giving us, we should be in a position to communicate where we are in relation to addressing this situation. Like I say all the time, I'm confident, more than confident about our ability to address load shedding, essentially the 6,000 megawatts that are missing to help us to meet the demand.
Right. So, Minister, your comments about the unbundling of Eskom not being a priority at the moment, if you're going to establish an independent electricity market, like Eskom's doing the standard offer and all of those sorts of things, do you not need to proceed with the transmission company as a matter of urgency?
No, I've never said in any of the many interviews done that it's not a priority. Of course, if you look at the energy action plan, it's got five pillars, and the last one is about the reforms, which deals with the unbundling. So all I'm saying is that for my purpose, to the extent that we want to resolve load shedding now, whether you dismember Eskom into those 3 generation units, doesn't help you. Those 3 units, that is generation, transmission and distribution, that you separate them, it doesn't help, it doesn't resolve the generation side. So the point I was making is that I'm placing additional attention on ensuring that we improve the generation side, and the rest of the other issues, of course, those are qualitative, if you like, long-range reforms that are necessary to address the energy ecosystem in our country. Very important, but for purposes of getting the 6,000 megawatts, whether these are 3 independent companies, they are not giving you 6,000 megawatts, yes. But over a longer period of time, you are absolutely correct. You need to ensure that you address that situation at the, if you like, the ecosystem, so that we don't run into problems going into the future.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Just on the question of diesel for Eskom, I mean, the President said in his State of the Nation speech that government would assist Eskom to buy more diesel, which in the end actually just meant they can borrow more money to buy diesel. What's your stance on this issue of diesel for Eskom, and whether they should be given more money from the Treasury to fill the gap?
Oh, excellent question. So to start with, of course, National Treasury has provided fiscal support, and then that fiscal support comes with the condition, the 254 billion rand. So it must invest in the repurposing, the maintenance, and also the strengthening of the grid. And the Minister of Finance has made the point that Eskom must make a case, if you like, on additional financing for diesel. But the point I'm making is that if the system is under pressure and you need to avoid, if you like, higher stages of load shedding, the peaking stations must come in, and your open cycle gas turbines are the ones that are consuming the diesel. So we should be in a position to make the case. But to avoid that situation is to improve the performance of the 14 power stations, the 3 coal-fired power stations, and also Koeberg. I did say just now that Koeberg is delayed. The 920 megawatts will not meet the target of 23rd of July because management on their own account, there were things that were unforeseen, and as a result is not able to come back on stream. And we know that is the most reliable, if you like, of all the power stations. So it means that already is putting you under pressure, is putting the system under pressure. So if it means to balance that system and avoid the higher stages of load shedding, you need to burn more diesel, then we must go and make a case at National Treasury. But we know that there's about 2,100 megawatts that's coming from Kusile on account of their own timelines. We know that there's significant improvements that have been promised by other power stations. Like I said, I'll give you the aggregate of what is possible in the next 3 months or so. And once we answer that question, then we can say, yes, we need the financing for diesel.
So what's the cutoff point for when you step in, when you'd like to see the turbines kick in? Is it stage 5? Is
Oh, brilliant question. So we need to establish that.
Okay.
When I was saying to management, I was asking the question: at which stage do you make a determination that you need the peaking plant?
Yeah.
For an example, where we are, this peaking plant is 5,800 megawatts. So in theory, if we're in stage 2, we can run them, and then we are out of load shedding.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the
yeah.
point is that they are really eating a lot of, or consuming, a lot of diesel. So it's just, if you like, the balance.
Yeah,
And then, of course, in that totality of the balance, you ask the question, what is the cost to the South African economy and what is the cost on the ESCOM balance sheet? So it's a delicate balancing act. And that's what we are saying. We engage with the management to determine what is the threshold, at which point must they kick in. When you are at lower stages of load shedding, can you afford that, the South African economy? It's a conversation we'll have, and for now I don't have an absolute answer until we are able to have that conversation and I'm able to present to Cabinet and say this is how I see it, and it's Cabinet that will make that determination, and of course the Minister of Finance, and then ESCOM will be assisted accordingly.
Would that, Minister, prior to the EFF shutdown, we have had a sustained level 1 load shedding, and we are seeing that now that is regressing, and by the way, casting aspersions to President Ramaphosa's public record to say that this is the future going forward.
Yeah, I keep on saying, I don't know how much I must say. There is no relationship between matching and the availability of us ending load shedding. First is that you do appreciate the level of anger, grievance, and disappointment on the South African public, and that's justified. So I'm really not about to downplay that for obvious reasons. People have lost jobs, the economy is suffering. So we really want to end load shedding in the shortest possible space of time. Why during the 3 days you never had load shedding is because demand had gone down, and then also the 6 power stations had picked up, had improved significantly, and that's the reason. Now people went back to work, the peak, of course, going back to a normal peak, so that's the only reason, and that's why we are not at stage 4, stage 5, because those units that have improved are able to keep us to stage 2 and stage 3 at the west. But if we keep on improving, if you like, the performance of the 13 power stations, coal power stations, and Koeberg, we are likely going to address the issue of load shedding. We are confident of addressing it. But of course, winter is coming, demand is going to increase significantly, and that's something that requires management. One of the things that we'll be raising to the public is that it's all in our hands. I think the focus has been on the generation side. As we attack the generation side, I think there's issues around the demand side. I think behavioral issues. A computation was done, and it suggests that we can save up to 4,000 megawatts, the optimistic case, but on the low end about 2,000 megawatts just by behavioral change. I mean, switching off geysers is going to help us a lot, and then in that way we are going to go to lower stages of load shedding. Let's assume on the more optimistic side, as our modeling is suggesting, you are able to get 4,000 megawatts. So that's a power station that is the size of Midup, if you like. So you are able to eliminate load shedding just on the demand side. So I think it's a message that will be communicated to the general public, just to have an appreciation that we can contribute towards the resolution of this challenge going into the future. But yes, I must say that in the short term, we still, the system, the grid is still under significant pressure. Like I said, the risk of repeating myself, I don't see us going to much higher stages of load shedding than we have seen before, even during winter. And if there's anything that suggests that things have changed dramatically, we'll make that, we'll communicate to the general public. But if you like, the long-term, if you like, projection is that we should be on course to address both the intensity and regularity of load shedding. What that is I'd ask for patience, because I must still go to this power station so that I'm able to give you a full picture of what's happening. I just told you about Koeberg, that we are out of the timelines that we had set for ourselves, management, unforeseen, if you like, incidents I just indicated Ankerlig, we are running it as opposed to a load factor of about 5%, was at 20% because of underperformance. So we're trying to make up of underperformance by other stations, and it's costly to Eskom. And
for how long can that power station then be able to back up and make up for all these other non-performing power stations?
Yeah, when I say Ankerlig, so I mean the totality of all the peaking plants.
For how long?
For as long as they are underperforming, so you need to protect the grid. So you must run those peaking stations so that you are able to protect the grid. But as I speak to you now, they are not running. At stage 2, those ones are sustaining us at stage 2. If there's a trigger that suggests that there's a deterioration, then they'll start running. But over an extended period of time, they are at 20%, when ideally they should be at 5%. So, if you like, that's a luxury. You don't need it's an emergency. So you don't need Ankerlig and the peaking stations to be running, because when they are running, it tells you a picture about the underperformance of others. So when they are not running, it simply means that the system is able to carry itself, or we are at tolerable levels of load shedding. Of course, that's relative, because it still has an adverse impact on the South African economy. Whether you are stage 1 or stage 2 is undermining the economy to grow at the right level. I mean, I just got a report this morning. I was listening to one of the media houses that says the PIC says the cost of load shedding on the South African economy is that it has shrunk the South African economy by 20%. I mean, that's significant over a period of time. So you can see that there's load shedding is causing significant and intolerable amount of injury and harm to the South African economy. The sooner we resolve it, the better for everyone.
Minister, the Western Cape is going ahead with its plans, and when I say the Western Cape, I'm talking about the Western Cape provincial government as well as the city of Cape Town, with their own plans to try and reduce the impact of load shedding on people who live in this province. Now, one of the things that the Premier is calling for, he's saying to people who can afford to invest in alternative energy, he's saying please go ahead and make that investment. Would you support that call?
Oh yes, by the way, coincidentally, I think I'm meeting with the Premier tomorrow, because there's a big investor that wants to come into the Western Cape with the possibility of generating 3,000 megawatts of gas. They need to have a conversation with the provincial government. So we'll facilitate those conversations. So we need everyone to put their shoulder to the wheel. Of course, as we make this intervention, you must remember that you must still balance the system. I mean, one of the issues that you have is that you also don't want to, it's also undesirable to get to a stage where there's generation far exceed what demand is, because we are now disrupting, if you like, the balance of the system, and that's why we are running pump station so that you increase demand. Of course, we are sitting with a difficult situation now, where in fact the demand is far outstripping supply, that is generation. So for now, yes, in the immediate, collaborate with everyone. We'll be meeting with all the premiers, but we are here, and because there's this opportunity, and I'll share with you the details once we have conveyed and discussed with the Premier Winde. I don't think that it's appropriate for me to speak to him via the media, when in fact that conversation will happen tomorrow, because there are actions that are still required on the part of the provincial government to help in facilitating that investment, which could be possible in the next 6 to 7 months. So there are many other initiatives. I think they need to be coordinated to ensure that we are able to address this situation going into the future.
Minister, we know